Live from the pitch pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and ECOFashion. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any of your area of your life. And I know this is possible after decades of experience with perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Marci Zaroff, who is a trailblazing force in the world of sustainable fashion. As the founder and CEO of ECOfashion Corp, Marci is a pioneer who coined the term eco-fashion back in 1995. She's not only an internationally recognized eco-lifestyle expert, but she's also an educator, innovator, and entrepreneur. Oh boy, is she an entrepreneur. I can't wait to dive into that. Marci is also author of ECOrenaissance, co-creating a stylish, sexy, and sustainable world, published by Simon & Schuster, and leads a greenhouse of brands, including the contemporary sustainable brand YesAnd and METAwear, a business-to-business sustainable clothing and home decor manufacturing platform, and farm-to-home bed and bath products, which you can find on QVC and HSN. And we're going to dive into that definitely in this podcast. And with her company, Marci is reshaping the industry with B2B sustainable apparel, home manufacturing, organic lifestyle products, and a unique eco-creation retail platform. Beyond her role as CEO, Marci is the founder of Under the Canopy, a producer of a documentary called Thread Driving Fashion Forward, and co-founder of Good Catch, BeyondBrands. And for more than 3 decades, she's championed environmental leadership and social justice, earning tons of recognition. Marci's influence extends globally as a board chair of the Textile Exchange and as a featured leader in the book ECOAmazon's 20 Women Who Are Transforming the World. Now, I know Marci because we've both done extensive work in the natural products industry. And the first time we officially worked together, I believe I had invited Marci to MC my client's fundraising event for Vitamin Angels at Expo East. And I think it was 2007. And that year, Marci helped us raise more than $1 million just in one night. And then later, Marci also brought my company, Pitch Publicity, on to do some publicity for another charity that she was supporting called Operation Warm, that provides coats to children in underserved communities. So that was a lot, but welcome, Marci. I mean,
thank you. I know, be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah, you're truly the complete package. You're an entrepreneur, you're a leader, you're an advocate, a mentor. And
never a dull moment.
As I was writing this long bio of you, and we've known each other for so long, the thing that strikes me is that just no matter how successful you get, you are so approachable. I mean, you're just one of the few people that I know that have your level of success and still remain relatable and human. So I'm really excited to get into the details of how you have pitched your way to the top of your career and how you've made success happen, or as we like to call on this podcast, MSH. So let's get into it. Now, you've launched so many businesses and product lines focused on sustainability. Before sustainability and organic was cool, you were out there trying to make it cool. How do you pitch sustainable fashion concepts to investors and collaborators today versus when you first started out? Is there a difference?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's as Lao Tzu once said, right? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And when I started my career, I always joke that there was a day where everybody in the organic food industry knew each other. That's how small it was. So, in my early years in the industry, there was a lot of education about why that mattered. It was so obvious to me, it resonated. And similarly, I was evolving to ask the question of what else, what more, what's next? And sort of that evolution led me to have that epiphany around you can't really support one part of the equation without the other, right? So, of course, as we see today, the evolution of clean food has gone into clean beauty. And that sort of has now segued into, oh, what about fashion and fiber? And as more and more people get educated and wake up and understand that interconnection of all the lifestyle choices, that's when they say this is a holistic mindset and way of thinking. And the connectivity between food and fiber is becoming more apparent every single day as we talk about things like regenerative agriculture and organic agriculture and ultimately climate action. And, so I'll just end with saying I've been kind of a walking cliche, right? Like one door closes, another one opens. What doesn't kill you makes you smarter, stronger, better, clearer. And I think, where we are today with eco fashion, it's come such a long way. So now it's really about not why, but why not?
I mean, as someone who coined a term, I mean, that's always a big credit to put to your resume. You coined a term, but you coined the term eco fashion. And I'm sure in the beginning days, it was really hard to get people to understand what that's all about. Now, we see things pop up all the time. Does it frustrate you to see all these other eco fashion brands coming about, or are you encouraged by that because it makes it easier to pitch your projects?
Yeah. I mean, when I started and I, filed a trademark on the term eco fashion because I had this like aha moment, people thought I was crazy. There were a lot of prejudices around people who are into fashion. They're really superficial and materialistic. They don't care about the world that we live in or the environment or humanitarian needs. And likewise, people who were in the early days of the organic and natural food movement, were kind of like anti-fashion in a way, where that was at least the stigma. So for me, it was about how do I bridge two very perceived to be dichotomous worlds? And what I always say, change the world of style, style the world of change, bridging the tree hugger and the fashionista or the tribe in the boardroom to demonstrate that these two worlds are not mutually exclusive. So, for me, it's always been about pitching about seed to self. How do we understand the traceability of our products? Going back to the source, again, very metaphoric for why the food industry has really propelled forward. People want to know where the product comes from. They want to know where the food is grown, how it's being grown, what's in it. And today, the way that I would pitch, sustainable fashion, eco fashion is very similar. It's just a different, vehicle for the same deeper, mission and mantra, which is, let's do well by doing good in the world. It's all about no compromise, right? Very metaphoric at that source level that we're waking up and we want to know the answers about, where things are from at the source.
Now you've had a lot of different projects you worked on, and one that I've just been mesmerized by from a pitching point of view is your work on HSN and QVC. I've always said that if you can pitch your products on HSN and QVC, you arrived, you're a pitching queen status. I think it's one of the hardest environments to pitch. And I even remember coming to, you had a reception recently in New York that you invited me to for HSN. And I heard you over there in the corner talking to the HSN producers about like what's working and what's not working. So I really wanted to talk about your farm to home line that you've sold on both QVC and HSN. How do you prepare your pitch for live shows to consumers? Because that's probably a little bit different than talking to someone that might have a little bit more education or background on sustainability.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think, you have to tell a story that resonates at a mass level. So it's about meeting consumers where they are. Don't impose, sort of the heavy stuff on them. Really just keep it light. Don't talk at your viewers, talk with them, right? They're your friends, right? And if I'm sitting in a room of people and people are asking me questions about why I'm doing what I do, it's more of a conversation that you want to be driving with. And the way I would prepare is, I would get very prepared in terms of the product, because at the end of the day, the stories are sort of they're circling the product. The product is what you need to drive with, right? So know the details of the product, know the why of the product, know the features and benefits of the product. And then it's, oh, by the way, it's also blah, 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 blah. So it's more about a value add equation than a sacrifice or a deprivation, or you're giving up something. Sustainability, whether you're talking about food, beauty, or fashion, has to be packaged in a way that you lead with design, and in my book, ECOrenaissance, that's really the whole premise, that through the lens of design, we can change the world, right? So if you give people that reason to buy from a place of it's something they love, right? It checks all the boxes of style, quality, fit, color, comfort, hand, price. And you add that extra layer, the cherry on top of it's, socially, environmentally responsible. It's, fair trade or low impact. It's organic, recycled, circular, regenerative, women's empowerment, all the fun ways that kind of, touch or strike a chord in somebody. Because at the end of the day, I think, there isn't a person on the planet, I would like to believe, that doesn't, want to make better choices. They just don't want to give anything up in the process. So, the whole way that I package QVC, HSN is give people what they love and seek, and a way to make a difference to human and environmental wellness, or farmer and worker welfare, and ultimately future generations, which as a mom is really kind of that driving force for me.
I like that you brought up to not start with the heavy stuff, because some of this sustainability and fashion, it does seem to get a little heavy. It almost seems a little depressing, or I don't want to think about that, or, oh no, my purchases at, I hate to call anyone out, but like at H&M or something are going to like devastate the planet. But so I like how you start with that. So giving me an example of, like, if you're talking to someone that's just kind of new to all of this, maybe their reviewer aren't HSN or QVC, what's a light way to talk about fashion in your home? Since I know that farm to home is really about, bedding and that type of thing. Have you found anything that's really resonating that people are going to stay tuned into you and watch the whole show?
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to, comfort, softness, quality, design details that are going to be, innovative or, add value to the product before you even get into the stuff that is like behind the curtain, right? Like I always say, the why is kind of, you take them very carefully into that world in a way that is at the talking points or the level that, they can relate to, right? And so, speaking about women's empowerment, speaking about there's no toxic chemicals, talking about, your skin is the largest organ in your body and your primary organ for absorption, and health and wellness are very much, I mean, who doesn't care about health and wellness? I think the pandemic was very eye-opening and kind of shifted the paradigm in so many ways for so many people, where we couldn't go outside, but we could go inside and kind of look at our priorities. And I think at the end of the day, all over the world, people woke up to the fact that if you don't have your health, what do you have, right? Like nothing else really matters except, being at home with your state of health and your family. And, that's where it all begins. So I think for me, it's about, meeting that viewer in a way that is approachable, it's accessible, and ultimately it's affordable. And that's always been part of my own personal mission is, to unlock this opportunity that can actually be scaled, right? To show that sustainability, whether you're talking about food, beauty, or fashion, can be for the masses. It's not just for the elite. That kind of, you think about the first phase of the organic food movement, right? And we always talked about like whole paycheck or, and now Costco is the biggest buyer in the world of, in the US of organic food, maybe in the world. And so today, 83% of Americans are buying organic food. So it's how do you start to educate people and activate them and engage them around sort of a way to see things where you can vote with your dollars, you can make decisions that are better for you, better for the planet, better for the future.
And still have that comfort, still have the soft sheets that you want. So
100%.
Those pain
Best
points
sheets ever.
that they want first, the pain points of, I just want comfort and elegance and whatever it
It's a
is.
beautiful sheet.
And then by the time you get to the sustainability piece, it's kind of like, oh, that's an added bonus. Like
That's right.
I'm getting what I want, plus I'm doing good in the world.
Yeah. I say value values.
I like that. Value values. Do you ad lib or do you kind of stick to a script when you're on those intense, like you have a timer on HSN and QVC, like there's a certain amount of time. Do you have to stick to a script or are you allowed to kind of read the audience a little bit and do some ad lib?
So there really isn't an audience, right? Because think of it, you're in a studio talking to a bunch of televisions, right? And it can be intimidating, right? Like the more prepared you are, the better, first and foremost, right? You want to know your product. You want to be able to sort of take them on a tour of the product, understanding sort of the every little detail because it all matters. And, you want to be approachable. I think part of my own personal challenge is as a CEO of a company, I do a lot of pitching. I pitch investors. Pitch in the sales arena with business development. It's a very different kind of selling process, if you will, because it's really about like hanging out with people, pretend the viewer is on your couch and you're just talking to them, right? And I think, it has to be organic in that way because if you sound like you're pitching, it will sound contrived and then that viewer might just turn off. So you want to just be engaging and smile and be lit up and be, have fun and find a way to package what you're talking about within that.
It's almost like they're coming in and into a conversation, kind of eavesdropping 100%. In a conversation that you're having. Do you receive updates, like sales updates, like in your ears? Someone is a producer talking to you and saying, okay, ramp it up here. Like we're not getting any sales now. Or are you getting any guidance as you're kind of casually chatting with the host?
Yeah, no, you definitely have pods in your ears, and the producers will give you some guidance like, oh, say that again. That was really good. Oh, they're starting to respond, focus a little more on that corner of the pocket on the sheet or whatever it is. So yes, they'll give us a little guidance, but, at the same time, they're not saying like, you've done 300 units of sales, let's do that because that's like too much information. But they might say, okay, all the colors are sold out except blue. Focus on the blue. Like they'll do that. They'll kind of help you there. And then when you get off of air, you can see some of those general sales. But as online shopping is growing and gaining a lot of momentum, you don't get to see the online part. And I would suspect that in my brands, because it's a very, it's a more evolved kind of concept in and of itself. There's a lot of education that sort of underlies sustainable fashion or food or product. So the consumer's doing a little more research, comparing, learning before they shop. It's not as much of an impulse buy as like old school HSN and QVC, where it's like, I'm going to buy that lawnmower because I know what a lawnmower is and I'm just going to I need one. You know what I mean? Or like whatever it is. So I think there's an element of like curiosity and research and sort of further kind of getting into like what is this and then once they shop and they try it, then it's about joining this. It's not just about the product. It's a feel good thing, right? If you try something just to kind of make sure that you're not giving something up and then you love it, then it's about, okay, I want to be a part of this, not just part of the product, but a part of a movement.
In a community, really. You're almost creating a community.
100%. For sure.
Now, I know that you were doing QVC, I think during the pandemic, and you built out this whole studio in your home so that you could do it remotely. So I'm just curious, and I know you've gone in studio, especially recently with HSN. I've seen you in studio, and their studios, I think, is in Tampa Bay area. Do you have a personal preference? Do you like doing it from your own studio, or would you rather be in person with that host? Is there a different type of chemistry, energy going on in your pitching style?
Yeah, no, I definitely prefer the in-person. I wasn't sure. I went on air once before COVID, literally like a week before or something. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I have to set up like a whole studio in my house. So I needed the lighting and the tech and the whole thing. I am not a tech genius. So like all of a sudden I'm like my own tech team, my own styling team, my own like, like everything. And that support system that I got to get a taste of, kind of went away. And there was a there was a situation when I first started going on air where like I got literally dropped off of Skype in the middle of my pitch and my segment. And it was like super stressful for me because I was like screaming in the background. So that's the risk of being at home. The comfort of being at home obviously is, it doesn't upend my whole life, right? But the energy of being on set with the host where you can riff off each other, and it's kind of like the same thing as, comparing a Zoom meeting to an in-person meeting. There's a lot that gets lost, right? You don't have that sort of energetic dynamic that can, kind of where you can co-create. So now that I'm back on air live on HSN, I really enjoy that. Kind of the excitement of being on set and the lighting and and then obviously all the
They're
support
doing all
systems.
your hair and makeup for you.
Totally. And then I have someone supporting me as far as all the setup is done for me. And so I can really focus and not be distracted by all the other moving parts that happen from, again, tech to making sure the product looks great on air.
I have one more question about this HSN QVC pitching, and then I want to move on to some of your other entrepreneurial endeavors, including working with celebrities. But I'm just curious, because you did have to do so much from your at-home studio. Obviously, that was a learning process for you, as a learning process for all of us on how to perform and pitch in that environment. Are there things that you learned along the way that if you had to do it again, like let's say things got shut down or you missed your flight and they're like, okay, just Zoom in or Skype in or whatever, are there things that you do to prepare differently to kind of get in that zone? Because you are at home, and I find it sometimes hard just to go from, talking to somebody in your house to like, now you're on TV. Are there things that you learn to do to really prepare yourself to get in that mindset of pitching?
Yeah. My husband, who you know well, I'm sure, like I'm like the worst nightmare when I'm like going on air because I learned it's not that it's now that I learned for next time. I was a process of learning throughout the course of COVID. I started going on air literally in like March of 2020 and was going on air, all the way through COVID. So from home. So each step of the way, I learned how to get myself more grounded, right? How to set the environment up right, how to make sure the phone wasn't going to ring in the middle of my, on air segment, or that my, stepson wasn't going to walk into my home office, or that like, there was a lot that I learned about creating a quiet place so that I could kind of get in the zone, because I think you need to have that. Ultimately you want to be channeling effortlessly, right? You don't want to be thinking too much when you're on air. You just want it to be natural. But for me to do that, because I'm running in 1,000 directions all day long, and I'm like, with my business, like it's not like I'm a professional, host, and that's all I do. I'm literally running like with my brain and 1,000 projects. So I definitely will start my day. I'll steam and I'll kind of get into a self-care mode. I'll check out of all business, several hours prior, just so I can, kind of again, tune into that part of me that can just be kind of more organic when I'm, in the, kind of in the flow. And then ultimately it's about storytelling. One thing I really learned is the way to be relatable on air is, again, being on the couch, you're hanging out, you're telling stories. So a lot of that prep would also involve like talking to people about, why would you buy organic sheets, and what have you ever bought them, and why did you buy them, and how did that make you feel? And then sort of getting those talking points, especially as it relates to farm to home product, sending product to people I love and know, having them try it, and then ultimately getting experiences, because the more I could do my own due diligence, the more effective I'll be in translating or communicating, the benefits of the product. So.
And I'm glad you said that too, that you just started your day with self-care on those studio days that you knew you had to do your studio from home, because I think it is hard to transition from, okay, I'm going to just check my email and do all this right before it's hard to switch into mindset. But if you were to fly to the studio and travel there, there is all this buffer time of kind of getting in that mindset that we don't think about when we're just, the convenience of being at home is great, but it's also, I think, a disadvantage if we're not taking all those steps that we would normally take if we were traveling to do something in studio.
For sure.
Now, you work with several high-profile people and celebrities like fashion photographer Nigel Barker, who many might know from his American Next Top Model days. Also, Oscar-winning actress Hilary Swank. Walk us through the entrepreneurial steps you take to develop high-profile partnerships. How does the pitching process start when you identify as an entrepreneur? Okay, that's somebody that I need to be working with. Where do you start? How do you make connections like that?
Well, I would say in the case of Nigel and Hillary, they were quite organic processes, right? Like for me, authenticity, um, traceability, transparency, that's at the core of my life work, right? I've been doing this kind of work for 3 decades. So long before it was like cool and popular. And, so for me, I wouldn't want to align with a celebrity just for the sake of having a celebrity partner. Like it would have to be somebody who speaks that language, who understands at the core of my work why I'm doing what I do. And so with Nigel, we were actually co-keynoting at the conference. And after we both spoke, we were like, hey, let's go grab lunch. And literally sat in the restaurant from lunch all the way through to dinner because we didn't get up from the table because we were so engaged in like learning about each other's work. And I think we both had a similar sort of energetic exchange around, wow, like if we could fuse our respective networks and opportunities and influences and leadership roles, it's like 1 + 1 = 11, right? Eric and I always say that, as you probably know, right? Because we are stronger together than apart. And co-creation is the most powerful tool for change, right? It is about, bringing together all the collective energy, skill set, strengths to drive change in the world. And we need all hands on deck. Everybody needs to be at the table. And I think Nigel, while he's a leader in the fashion industry and probably one of the most well-renowned fashion photographers, and ultimately, a TV personality from America's Next Top Model for 17 seasons, very deep networks. Sustainability at the core of who he is as a human is super important. He's a father, he's raising kids, he's very involved in a lot of nonprofits. And so it was that really resonated for me, that he's the real deal as a human, like just really cares. And the more we got to know each other, again, just setting up follow-up calls, the more it became apparent that, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And he joined us first as my first celebrity partner. And then with Hillary actually reached out for me to help her with a brand that she had started. And so one thing led to another, again, very organic process. She's a new mom of twins. And as a 2-time Oscar Award winner, she's obviously, very well networked in the way of her influence. She's really built herself from the ground up, which I really respect and admire. And her dedication and true commitment to sustainability, not only as a mom, but as a citizen of the planet, is just so fundamental to her. And that became very apparent. Whereas we started to talk about joining forces in a bigger way than me helping her, it was, very organic. And it was like, it just started to feel like, wow, same thing with Nigel. We can actually go farther, faster. One of the quotes that I love is, alone you are smart, but together we are brilliant. And, and I think that really continues to, feed off of what I said earlier, that this, bringing together this co-creation is more important now than ever before.
Have you always been like that in your career? Have you always been one that is always looking to connect with people and partner with people and do things as a team? Or was there a point in your career, maybe earlier on, that you were just the Lone Ranger and you weren't taking on people? Have you always, which style is more you?
Well, when I started my career, my first business, today it's called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I think there's close to 200,000 people worldwide that are now certified by the school as health coaches. So it was always about community for me. It was always about being, joining forces with kindred spirits. We're living in this modern day Star Wars now, right? Where it's like the dark and the light forces are all fighting against each other. And it's like we have to turn on the light. When I was 16 years old, one of my best friends gave me a book called Living in the Light by Shakti Gawain. And it struck a deep chord in me. It really inspired me. And it made me realize there's so much more than what we see. And it's that light that's at the source that's all connected here, right? That we have to sort of tap into to make us realize who we are and what our relationship with all living beings, the planet, the nature, animals, humans all over the world. We're one global community and we're not outside of our environment. We're a part of it, right? We breathe out carbon and nature breathes it in, and nature breathes out oxygen and we breathe it in. So we have a symbiotic relationship with all living things, and we forget that. So I think for me, that was always kind of at the source of what inspired me to keep going in this movement. And my book really speaks to co-creation and connection and collaboration and consciousness and community, which are the principles of the eco-renaissance, which is the rebirth of humanity built on the realization that we're all part of an ecosystem together.
That's really evident. And I think it's a real testament to your success too, that you've been so open to collaborate and connect with others. And a lot of times I think when you're starting out, you feel like you can't share information, and you've always just been, as I said in the beginning, you're always accessible. But as you gain as you gain more people that are around you, like the Hillary Swanks of the world, I'm sure you're also attracting people that maybe you can't put in your world, so I'm sure you get hit up all the time. Do you tell people no? And if so, like, how do you tell them no? And when do you how do you go about doing that without having people not feel connected to you?
I think at a very fundamental level, I believe serving others is serving myself. So, being approachable isn't like something I'm trying to be. It's just who I am. I think I know that I can't get what I believe where I need to be from the standpoint of the work I'm doing alone. I know that it takes a village, and I know that I can be a guide, kind of like a conductor of a symphony, but you need all of the players, you need all of the instruments, you need to create a beautiful, beautiful music. And at the end of the day, I always ask people when I'm hiring, if you could write your own job description, what would that look like? Because I want people to be happy. I want them to feel a part of something that they're there because they want to be there, not because they have to be there. My favorite quote is from the book The Prophet, which is work is love made visible, right? So when you love your work, it's not work, it's love. And that really is, the DNA or at the core of my work. There's that idea that, everybody wants love and to be loved, and we're all in this together. And so it's really about, holding hands and moving things forward together.
We talked a lot about mentorship on this show. You definitely embrace mentorship in your community approach. Do you have mentors? Do you seek mentors at this stage of your career?
So I'm very, very lucky. And my mentor of 25 years was the founder of Aveda, Horst Reckelbacher. I met Horst at an environmental conference in not to age myself here, but I think in the late 80s. My girlfriend who had given me the book Living in the Light that I mentioned, she was actually a hairdresser. And so she was exposed to Veda when it was one product and sort of turned me on to it. And I remember very vividly when she gave me the product, it was a clove shampoo, and I smelled it. And it was like a drug. I mean, it literally went my whole body. I was like, oh, that's intoxicating. And then I read the label and it talked about like plant wisdom and indigenous cultures and, it like really like I was moved by what I learned. But what led me into the product was, the scent and ultimately the way it worked. So Horse taught me a lot about, the way to package conscious living, right? Through um, leading people on that sort of aesthetic, visceral level, and then taking them down that proverbial rabbit hole of the why and the what and the how and the where and the when, but doing it in an elegant, beautiful way. So he was a real force in my life. He passed away a handful of years ago. He wrote the foreword to my book, ECOrenaissance. Eric and I got married at his house on 11/11/11. And I also got to speak at his funeral and pay tribute to him. So yeah, he was a major influence in my life. And with that, I try to give back as much as I can. I have a very busy life, but when people reach out to me, even if it's a 10 or 15-minute call or answering a question, as much as I can, not always, but, I do try to be there for others.
I'm glad I asked you about that because I forgot about that horse story. And it's an amazing one. Just so that we don't miss the exact step on how you became his mentee, did you reach out to him or exactly how did that relationship start?
Well, I knew who he was because of my girlfriend. I knew the brand. And he was a speaker at a conference I went to. And I just like it just everything he was saying was like listening to myself, and back in the day, I hate to say that, but we were like, it was a very small community, right? So, everything he said resonated to the point where I approached him and told him the work I was doing. He loved what I was doing. And in the school where we were doing mostly food and, education, and Aveda had not yet expanded into New York City, believe it or not. We decided to join forces and open the very first Aveda concept salon in New York together in my school. So that connectivity of food and beauty, like organic and clean food with clean beauty, started very early in my career, where that was kind of what led me down that path of, okay, you can't really support one part of this equation without the rest. And that's when I had that sort of, exposure and ultimately epiphany around eco fashion. That fiber is just another part, a spoke in the wheel of change, right? Food, beauty, fashion, business, art, and wellness. These are all kind of the pieces of the puzzle that I speak about in my book. In fact, each chapter is dedicated to one of those sectors or topics.
Well, I can't think of a more perfect way to wrap up because that is a beautiful story. You have to get Marci's book. Read the foreword by Horse. And is there anything that you would like to pitch our audience today about what you're doing that you would really like them to engage with you, or what is the best way for them to be connected to you?
Well, ecofashion.com, marcizaroff.com, at Marci Zaroff. Follow me and follow my journey. I go into my farms and into my factories. At EcoFashion, we started the source. We have our own farm project called Reset, which is an acronym for Regenerate the Environment, Society, and Economy through Textiles. So, we started the seed and build up the supply chain. So check out, Farm to Home at farmtohome.com. It will tell you all the retailers carrying the brand. This summer, we're going to be going live with a whole new collection of amazing, just fabulous organic sheets, towels, robes, all the bedding. We currently have pillows, comforters, Costco.com, Target.com. I mean, you can find it in a lot of places. I'll be going on YesAnd again in August. So, follow me on Insta and you'll be able to follow that journey. And then with YesAnd on Monday, we're going to be launching our first collaboration with Hillary and in partnership with a company called Daily Look, which is a styling subscription service. So check out the collaboration at and you can find more information about it at ecofashion.com or go right to dailylook.com.
Well, Marci, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you have inspired so many with your career journey. I love this story of connectivity and collaboration. You exude that. Be sure to follow Marci at Marci Zaroff on all social handles and marcizaroff.com, where you can find all of this and her book, Multiple Ways to Support Sustainability Throughout Your Home and Your Wardrobe. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there, pitch, advocate for yourself, connect with others, collaborate with others, make success happen as Marci does. And as a bonus, join us on anisivox.com, where you can get mentored, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link's going to be in the show notes, along with all my social media handles and Marci's. So let's stay connected, as Marci says. That is the big word. And until next time, MSH. Thank you, Marci.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks, everyone.